Welcome back to Views with Hughes, agenda-free news. This is Drum Hughes. Now, let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, there's something that's been making waves in the entertainment world, as we know. You know, the cancellation of Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland. You know, ever since Disney had to cancel and stuff, you know, the Star Wars series that was supposed to cater to a modern audience and stuff has failed. Now, Disney and Lucasfilm poured a whopping $180 million to Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland, but now it's officially dead in water. So there's no season 2, no grand revival, just a quiet, unceremonious end. All right. So what does this exactly mean for the future of Star Wars, and what does this tell us about the entertainment industry as a whole? Now, first off, there's the numbers. You know, Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland was the latest least watched Star Wars show in Disney's history. That's right, less than Ahsoka, which already wasn't exactly lighting the world on fire, but for the most of its run, Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland didn't even chart, okay? Now, when the finale aired, it was the lowest rated Star Wars finale ever. And we're talking about Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland, not that not only failed to attract a significant audience at the beginning, but actually lost momentum as it went along. Think about that for a second. Despite a massive budget, despite all the hype from the woke media, despite all the efforts to make the Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland relevant, it completely tanked. Okay, and that's no surprise right there, because, you know, we all knew this was going to happen. Now, you might be thinking, well, maybe the film reaction was incredible. Maybe it was, you know, a slow burn that people just needed time to appreciate. I've been told that myself, but that wasn't the case either. You see, the vast majority of the people who did give Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland a shot didn't like it. The reviews were overwhelmingly negative, and not just from the so-called toxic fans that the woke media loves to blame. This wasn't the case of the Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland being, you know, misunderstood or ahead of its time. You know, this was a case of Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland simply not connecting with the audiences today, who were the OG fans who didn't even watch. But here's the kicker: despite all of this, there's still a group of fans and woke media outlets out there trying to defend Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland and demand a season 2. Now, they're claiming that Disney and Lucasfilm caved to pressure from so-called toxic fans, you know, the ones who supposedly hate diversity, who hate progress, who hate anything that doesn't fit into their narrow view of what Star Wars should be. But let's be honest here, that is not what happened here at all. You see, Disney didn't, you know, can't have Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland canceled because of a few angry YouTubers, or because some fans didn't like the show's politics. Disney had The Acolyte canceled because simply nobody watched the thing. You know, the people they were trying to cater to, who had pronouns and bio crowd, you know, the modern audience that cares more about diversity and representation than good storytelling, you know, they're the ones who showed up. They're the only ones who showed up. And sure, but there just weren't enough of them. You see, Disney and Lucasfilm have spent years telling the old fans to take a hike, basically to stop watching if they didn't like the new direction. Well, guess what? The fans left, and the new fans aren't really numerous enough to keep Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland afloat, or even keep the ratings to getting high enough so they can get season 2. And what's the woke media's response to all of this? Blame the fans, of course. You see, there's a Rolling Stone article out there making rounds right now arguing that before Star Wars can have another successful show, the most vocal parts of the fandom need to, well, as they say, reckon with what they really want out of the franchise. But according to them, the Star Wars that fans want never existed in the first place. And the future of Star Wars is somehow being held hostage by a minority of loud conservative voices. That's what they're claiming. But let me be clear. The vast majority of Star Wars fans aren't even asking for the franchise to be all about white men or anything like that. They're not asking for the good old days of the 1970s to come back. What they're asking for is simple: good stories based on what George Lucas told, stories that respect the legacy of Star Wars, that build on what made this franchise great in the first place. And they want characters that they believe in, worlds they can get lost in, and stories that mean something. They don't want to be lectured to. They just want to be entertained. And if you look at back at The Last Jedi, you know, the movie that divided the fan base more than any other, people weren't even upset because they had a diverse cast. They were upset because it butchered the beloved characters and ignored the basic tenets of good storytelling from George Lucas. And yes, there was some criticism of characters like Reva and Obi-Wan Kenobi, but that wasn't because she was black or because she was a woman. It was because the character was poorly written and added nothing to the story itself. On the other hand, Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan, a character who was neither black or a woman, also got his share of criticism, his fair share of criticism. And you know what? Are we going to call these critics sexist or racist too? Of course not. But instead, here we are, 2024, with woke media outlets blaming the cancellation of Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland on toxic fans, as they call them, instead of facing some truth. People didn't like the Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland, and worse, nobody even watched it. Okay, Disney didn't have The Acolyte canceled, because they wanted to appease YouTubers or because, they suddenly grew conscience. No, Disney had Star Wars The Acolyte canceled because it was a financial failure, plain and simple. And with this, Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland, I've seen a lot of people online who are desperate to save Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland, and they're calling for Disney to actually reconsider, to give Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland another chance. But let's face it, no matter how many petitions you have, the Star Wars fandom has become so fractured, so toxic in their minds in some ways that it's hard to see how Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland could ever succeed. That's what Rolling Stone's claiming. Now, the woke media has spent years attacking Star Wars fans, calling them everything from sexist to racist to homophobic, every instaphobic in book, all because they didn't like certain aspects of the newer content. And now they want to blame those same fans for the failure of Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland. Okay, that was never going to succeed in the first place, as you all know that, and I knew that as well. But in reality, Disney and Lucasfilm would have loved nothing more than for Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland to be a massive hit. They would have loved to shove the Acolyte by Leslye Headland in our faces and say, see, this is what Star Wars should be now. But Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland wasn't a hit, and it was a flop. And no amount of woke media spin is going to change that. They would have done anything to justify giving Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland a second season, but they couldn't because the numbers, well, they just weren't there. Okay, so where exactly does that leave us? Well, it's time for a little reality check. The modern audience that Disney has been chasing isn't big enough to support these kind of projects. You can cater to all the woke crowd all you want to, but at the end of the day, if the story's not good, people aren't going to watch. And that's just the lesson that woke Hollywood need to learn. So stop craving to the pressure of the loud vocal minority and start focusing on what really matters. Plain and simple, good storytelling. Okay? So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. What do you think about this whole thing? Do you think that it's time for Lucasfilm to go ahead and start actually canceling more projects and stuff, including the Rey movie? Or do you think that they're going to go ahead and keep doing the same thing over and over again, just rinse, reuse, and repeat? Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Also, be sure to include any additional thoughts you might have this particular topic. If you enjoyed what I shared in this video, go ahead, smash the like button, and share far wide across social media. And if you haven't done so already, and you enjoyed all the content that I put out there, go ahead, subscribe to the channel, click the bell notification so that way you'll be notified of future uploads and updates. Till then, peace.